know.
And we should be live. We are live now. Good evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. Hope you're all doing very well. Start of another week. And I hope everybody north of the border survived the storm on Friday. It's quite breezy up here, as you can tell. No hair left because it went by the wind. But however, so tonight we are welcoming a fresh guest, a fresh bit of meat, basically. Debbie, I'm going to get a second name wrong, but here we go. Ison.
Ison, yeah, well done.
Ison, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Good. No, I've had some guests on, you try to pronounce a second name, and there's about 30 letters in it, and a lot of them don't match.
Yeah.
And
I'm exactly the same with that, but no, it's just 4 letters, Ison.
Yeah. Nice and easy, You sit for about a week studying their surname, hoping that you try to pronounce it and stuff like that, But Debbie is a hypnotherapist. Yep. And she's also studying parapsychology. I'll let her tell you, actually. I don't know why I'm telling you. I'll let Debbie tell you. Thanks for coming in, Debbie. It's nice to finally meet you.
It's nice to finally have a chat with you. Thank you for having me on.
It's my pleasure. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I'm Debbie Ison. And, it was Barry John, actually, that set us up to chat with each other.
Wait till I see him.
Well, I'm a troublemaker. Now you've got me on, then there's no getting rid of me.
No, sorry. There's not. No, Barry is. There's Laura. She's one of ours. She's one of your team.
Hello.
And a good friend. Eileen. She's from Phantom Seekers Paranormal. Eileen's about 4'1", but don't tell her she's short. No, she's a great wee woman. She's a great wee woman. Evening, dear. We've had Barry on quite a few times. He's coming back next month, actually. Can't get rid of him.
Good. He's very interesting.
He is. He's very down to earth, and you couldn't meet a nicer guy. The last time he was on, he had this big snooty on. I think that's what you call it. He was sitting on he looked like a big fluffy bear.
Oh, lovely.
But no, it was him that recommended you, and so that's why I hunted you down. That sounds bad, doesn't it? Hunted you down. So tell us a bit about yourself, Debbie. Probably asked this before, but I'm asking you.
Yeah, well, that's great. So like I say, I'm Debbie Ison. I'm a therapist. I class myself as a hypnotherapist, but I'm trained in 13 different therapies. And I also train therapists. So I train hypnotherapists. I train past life regression therapists. I train Reiki practitioners, and I'm also an NLP trainer. But over the last few years in particular, my work has gone very much down the spiritual, transpersonal way of working. And that's not something I ever expected I would be doing professionally. I've always had spiritual experiences and paranormal experiences growing up, but they actually really frightened me. So when I became a therapist, I wanted to keep well away from that side of things. And also I had the advice to stay very clinical and professional because it might give me a bad reputation. And my clients had other ideas. So lots of unusual things started happening in the therapy room as the years went by. And now it's incorporated into my work and I absolutely love it.
Good. Eileen's saying that I have a way with words. That's my Glaswegian charm, Eileen. You should know that. But I'll take that. I'm going to take that as a compliment, actually.
You should.
Actually, I'm keeping that one, Eileen. That's mine, actually, dog. So you've got quite a few strikes to your bow, basically.
I have. I just love finding out about people and the world around us. I think there's always more to learn, and anything I can do to help me with that and to help other people, well, then that's got to be great.
See, in Scotland, people who want to find out about other people, we call them nosy.
And I'm just nosy. I think you have to be nosy doing my job because what I do is I go into people's minds, I find out what's the matter, and then I have to find a way to fix it. So I think you have to be inherently nosy to want to know about people's lives and what's happened to them.
I suppose so. If people don't come forward, people don't tell you what the issue is, then how can you fix it?
Exactly.
So it is good that you don't want to get any Glaswegians' minds. Stay away from them. Or Barry John, if he watches this. Sorry, Barry, but stay away from Barry John's mind. No, please. You're a nice guy, Barry. Sorry. Love you. love you. You know, you need to say that, don't you? You need to say that. So you've had quite a few experiences in your time. Here we go. First question, actually, sorry, Rob. What percentage of your work is spooky, paranormal against therapeutic?
So I would say it's probably about half and half now. So how I work is people come to me for an issue. A lot of my work is through recommendation and referral. I tend to be the therapist that a lot of other people refer on to because they don't quite know how to deal with what's happening with their clients. And I basically ask a person's mind to go to wherever the problem is. So sometimes it's this life trauma, sometimes it's interactions that are going on in their life or something that's happening in their environment. But other times it's paranormal, or there's an element of paranormal to it. So we just go wherever we need to go. So I'd say now, because it's an area I specialise in, it's about 50-50.
Yeah, there you go. I hope that answers your question, dear. Thank you. So you said that you've had quite a few things happen to you.
Yes, absolutely. So
do tell.
Got to the therapy side of things, for as long as I can remember, I remember having spiritual experiences and paranormal experiences. And I think the first thing I remember was after my brother, so there's 18 months or 19 months between me and my brother, I think 18 months. And when he got put into his own bedroom, so I'd have been about 2 at the time, I remember things started to become a bit strange in the house that I grew up in. And I would often see a shadowy figure walking past my doorway, and it would make me feel very frightened. Mm-hmm. And that carried on for a long time. But it was when I became a teenager, things started to escalate. So I went to bed one night, went to sleep, woke up in the early hours of the morning, and at the foot of my bed, I saw a figure sat on the bottom of the bed. And I'm actually quite logical. And I thought, you know what? I'm half asleep. My brain isn't fully awake yet. If I pull these covers up, they're going to come up to me and it's going to prove there's absolutely nothing there. So I took a great big breath, 1, 2, 3, yanked the covers as hard as I could, and they wouldn't budge. And I saw this sort of grey figure then rise up, stand and turn around. So with that, I legged it down the stairs. I was very, very frightened. And I sort of catnapped in the living room for the evening, and I convinced myself that it was a dream. It couldn't have happened. But then things started happening night after night. So each night I would wake up and I would see this thing stood over my bed. My mum started to experience things going on in the house. Objects would move. We would hear furniture being dragged around when there was no furniture being dragged around. We'd sometimes hear voices that weren't there. And it sort of escalated almost like a typical poltergeist. Really. So it couldn't have to do with my emotions. It could have been that I was a teenager. There was lots of hormonal things going on. But it was really interesting that my mum and a few other people experienced things in the house as well. And it was only when I became an adult, me and my mum spoke about this more. And she said, actually, when my brother was a baby and she put him into his cot in that room, the cot sides used to go down when he was in it, as if something was trying to make him fall out. So there'd been something going on throughout my childhood in that house, and I hated it. I couldn't wait to get out of there. And it left me really, really frightened. So when I became an adult, I didn't want anything to do with the paranormal. And it was almost like a can't see you, can't hear you, don't exist. I don't want to know. And it was fine for a few years. But then we had an incident that happened in our first home. So me and my husband rented a property. And for the first couple of years living there, some nights I would wake up and I would just feel that there was something watching me from the doorway. I didn't say anything to my husband because he didn't believe in anything like that. So I just would cover my head under the duvet and try and ignore it. But after a couple of years, he was awake one night and he was like, Debbie, are you awake? I was like, yeah, are you? And he says, I know it sounds really strange, but some nights I feel like something's watching me from the doorway and I can't sleep. But once again, I didn't know how to deal with that because we're not taught how to deal with these things in our life. We're taught how to read, how to write, how to do mathematics.
It's not something you get taught in school, really. You know.
What is it? Oh, there's a spirit there, how to send them away or what to do with that or who to go and ask for help. So I ignored it. But then I had my children. So when my little boy came along, he was fine. He slept beautifully until at about 7 months old, I put him into his own room. And from that, he stopped sleeping. He would scream all night long. He'd be banging on his cot. There was nothing I could do to settle him for more than 15 or 20 minutes. So I ended up going to the normal routes, GP, health visitor, asking for all of their guidance, and it got nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to do. It was getting closer to me going back to work after maternity leave. I was a primary school teacher at the time. And I just so happened to book in a reflexology appointment with a lady called Linda. And I was telling her about what was going on. And she just said, do you mind if I check out the energies in your property? And I was like, sure. I'm not sure what this lady means, but go ahead. So about a week later, she rang me and she said, look, I've done some energy work on your property. There was something in the property and something in particular attached to your little boy, but this was a particularly complex situation. So see how you get on. And if I need to do any more work, I'll just contact me. So still didn't really know what she meant. But that night I went and put him into his cot and he fell asleep. And what I noticed was his room was warm, and it had never, ever been warm. It's only something you realise, though, that there was that absence when there's no longer that cold there. And for the first few hours, he slept beautifully. But then at 11 o'clock at night, he started screaming, crying, and it felt horrible. And I thought, he's not staying in this room. So I took him out, and his cot continued to bang all night long. I was terrified. I sat awake all night thinking, what do I do? My husband didn't like it, but eventually he was like, well, there's nothing I can do, so I may as well just go to sleep. So I sat there by myself with my baby. And when I went into the bedroom in the morning when my little girl got up, the room was trashed. I've never seen anything like it. So all the bedding had come out of the cot and was on the floor. The blinds were unscrewed from the wall. Pictures that were on the walls were all on the floor. And it's like somebody had come in and vandalized the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very shaken up by that. So as soon as it was daylight and it was a suitable time to call Linda, I rang her in a real panic. And she said to me, I told you it was a complicated one. Give me another hour and I'll get back to you. And she just sort of chuckled away and left it at that. But she did. She rang back half an hour later and said, look, it's properly dealt with now and it'll be fine. And from then on, my little boy slept peacefully. He went back to being settled, content, happy. But I was left feeling very frightened. It brought up all of that trauma from my childhood. And also, I felt really guilty as a mum that I hadn't done anything to deal with it. Not that I knew how to deal with it, but I should have been able to protect him and do something. So about a month later, I met with her and she said, look, you've always seen and experienced things. It's time to stop being frightened. It's time to start facing up to this and let me show you what to do. And she did. So she taught me basics of how to ground myself, how to protect my energy, how to clear our home. And then as I became more confident with that, I then started doing remote energy clearances with her. And that's where it then started to become a normal part of my life. However, it wasn't really part of the client work at that time. It was still just this sort of weird little hobby that I had that if anybody ever mentioned...
kind of sideline.
Yeah. Just things were going bump in the house or somebody wasn't sleeping very well or somebody had seen something. I'd just say, oh, do you want me to check the energy? Almost like paying it forward because Linda had done that for me. So I was going to do it for somebody else.
No, it's a good thing. Eileen got a question. I was actually going to ask you this, but Eileen got in there first. You have attachment from your childhood.
So in terms of, did I have any attachments attached to me from my childhood?
Yeah.
So I don't now. I think the thing that was in my home tried to follow me for a while, and there were some quite scary experiences that have happened. But as I've learned how to clear my energy, I regularly clear and check my energy. And because I also work with other practitioners that do this, we all check in to each other. So if anything does try and attach to us, we send it on its way pretty quickly. And now I feel very, very grateful for the childhood I had. I feel very grateful for those experiences because I feel that maybe I've always been on this path and it's always been there to help me, even though I didn't like it at the time. And I don't ever worry about what happened in my childhood anymore.
No, it's no, I think a lot of people, and I've seen this in quite a few shows, have had things happen to them, whether it's in their childhood or at some point in their life, that they just can't explain.
Yeah.
And they kind of put it to the side. I've got a couple of comments with Laura and Kate. I'll put up in a wee second. It's like years and years ago when I was my first marriage, just before mobile phones were invented, basically, Not that I'm old or anything, I'm still a young chicken, obviously. But, it was weird thing, the phone would ring, and I would be able to tell my ex-wife, that's your mum on the phone.
Yeah.
That's your sister. And it would turn out to be who I said it was, and she would say, how did you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a clue, but that was your sister. That's my sister on the phone. How did you? And it used to freak her out,
Yeah.
And which I thought was quite funny because it freaked her out. But it was, it happened to me, but then it stopped happening. It lasted a certain amount of time, then that was it, no more. And then I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And it's when I went to, I used to go to spiritualist churches all the time in Glasgow. And one night I went to one in Lineside Halls. First time I'd ever been in. This woman, the medium, would come on, and she told me about my daughter who had lost, and she told me loads of things. But she says, my dad was there, and my dad was saying, you've got a gift, and you need to keep pursuing it. And then, and the woman says, your dad's telling me you keep finding books on this subject.
Okay.
And it was true, because when I started going to spiritualist church, I went to the library to get, to read it, and the woman says, we've only got one book. So I took it, read it, took it back, and I was having a wee look, and I found another book on it. And this happened about 5 or 6 times. I kept finding more books, I thought, she said there was only one, lying, tell me lies, But this woman, you keep finding books on it. And I thought, that's right. Every time I go to the library, I find a different book, And so it does make you start to wonder. I know a lot of people laugh at it, the paranormal and ghosts and spooks and all, whatever you want to call them. But I've said to quite a few people, have you ever had anything happen in your life that you can't explain? It could be a noise, a smell. You think you've seen something at the corner of your eye, something's something moved in your house, whether it be a set of keys or it could be a cup, whatever. Have you ever, I knew you mentioned it, that happened, I lost my keys and they turned up 2 days later or whatever. I think, well, how do you know that's no, I'm not saying it is, because we've got a strict rule, we never state anything paranormal. But how do you know that wasn't kind of related to the paranormal? Well, I never thought it, I never thought of that, I'll stick these comments up there. Kate saying hello. Kate's from Chicago. I always guess right here, Chicago. She's from Chicago. I used to say San Francisco. Actually, Chicago. Just talk about your bedroom. Laura's asking, how do you feel about imaginary friends? That's an interesting question.
I think it's a really interesting question. And I think a lot of the time, particularly with young children, they're so much more open and aware because they haven't had that social conditioning telling them that these things don't exist, can't exist. You're going to be ridiculed or shamed by experiencing these things. So I think sometimes they might be constructs of the mind. They might be something that children create as part of imaginary play. But then I think at other times, perhaps they are beings on a different frequency that people are experiencing, whether that is people that have passed away or whether it's different types of energetic beings. Because I almost see it like this frequency all around us. And it's almost like if we tuned into a radio, we tune into which radio station we want to listen to. But all those other radio stations are still happening around us. And I often think with younger children, they're just more adept at tuning into more of the frequencies. And so I think perhaps they can see and experience things that maybe some of us lose as we get older. So I think it's absolutely plausible that some of those imaginary friends could potentially be other energetic beings of some sort.
I think you're totally right. I mean, you see there's countless videos out there of kids, talking maybe babies and stuff like that, and they'll be sitting, and I've watched the videos, and you be sitting and the baby will be sitting looking at something or pointing to a corner or something, and I've read stories about kids who have went into, you know, a relative's house that they've never ever been in before, and they've looked at a picture and pointed to a picture and say that, you know, that's my granddad, whoever, and the parents have said there's no way they could have known that because they've never seen a photo of them. But they go, that's a lady that I've seen in my house, kind of thing, you know. And these kids have got no reason to lie, you know.
Absolutely.
And well, there's got to be something in it. I've got a few comments I'm going to stick up. Do you think it's something from another dimension, or a spirit body is deceased or alien, or is it an entity?
Okay, so
it's talking about what happened in your house.
Okay, so the thing that happened in my house, I think the one growing up as a child, I believe there was 2 or 3 human spirits there, so people who had passed but hadn't gone into the light. But I also believe there was a darker presence there that was of non-human origin. And then what was in my house when my little boy was little was a deceased human that hadn't gone into the light. It was actually an infant that was very, very frightened, passed away, hadn't realised it had passed away, lonely, frightened, wanted some help, and nobody was paying any attention. And so came cross, and it was just basically like a temper tantrum of somebody noticed me. And as soon as that was dealt with, he could then pass into the light. So, yeah, certainly in those scenarios, I think there was different things playing out. But I know with my client work, so how I do a lot of my client work is I do spirit release therapy now. So what that basically means is I take somebody, normally in hypnosis, but not always, and if they perceive that they've got an entity or an energy that's not part of them attached to them, I will then ask questions. And part of that questioning process is to find out what type of entity is there. So sometimes it will be something that claims to be deceased human. If that's the case, I will talk to them about their life, why they didn't go into the light, and I'll provide them with therapy just in the same way as I would with a living client. Other times I have things that come through that claim to be non-human. So things that we would maybe class as demonic, or what I would call dark force, so lower vibrating beings. And they tend to interact in a very different way. So they will often swear at me a lot. They will threaten me quite a lot. There's quite a lot of abuse that comes out. And then sometimes I get other beings that class themselves as alien. And once again, that's a completely different dialogue. So a lot of the time when that happens, it's all about an experiment. It's either coming in and observing or learning, or it's obtaining some sort of information. So that tends to be going through a process of, well, have you taken into account that you being here is going to alter the outcome of your experiment? How long does your experiment last before you've got enough data? So it just depends on what they say as to what angle I take it to. But the ultimate aim is to remove them from the client so the client can become healthy and balanced. So I certainly, there's all sorts of different beings out there, or the potential for them to be out there.
And then obviously then there's the ones, I'll get your comments up in a wee second, folks. Just so you're saying about the demonic side and all the rest, we don't do the demonic side, we never have, because we don't know enough about it, do you know what I mean? And I think too many people jump on the demonic word too. We would rather just say grumpy spirit, basically. Yeah. I mean, we've done investigations, and you get into a place, one that springs to mind is Canongate Kirk in Edinburgh. We hadn't long started, we'd only been running, it was just after lockdown finished, I think, but we were in Edinburgh, we were going up to Greyfriars at night, but we went to Canongate Kirk, which is very, very similar to Greyfriars, and we got the car, and as soon as we went in the gate, we just felt this overwhelming feel that we were not wanted. It wasn't demonic or anything. Sarah saw a black shadow near the grave, the supposed grave of, I'm going to get his name out, John Riddle, who was Mary Queen of Scots secretary. He's meant to be buried there. So Sarah, she headed off to the car, but I went for a walkabout in the Kirk, you know. I came back out, and I'm an easygoing guy, you know, it takes a lot to really rile me, but when I came out the Kirk card, I was raging. Nothing had happened. Not a thing. I'd never had they spoke to anybody, nothing. But I was absolutely furious. But I couldn't explain why. So I got in the car, headed up to Greyfriars, which was about 10 minutes away. But the further I got away from Canongate, the feeling just disappeared. It went. You know.
It's fascinating, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you think about if you're in contact with people, if you're in contact with somebody who's happy and bubbly and has got a really nice energy, you go away feeling uplifted. If you come across somebody that's really grumpy or sort of an energetic vampire and they just sap your energy, you go away feeling deflated or angry or rubbish. So why would it be any different if it's a spirit?
Exactly. It was really, really, where I say, I'm not saying I was possessed or anything, nothing like that, that rubbish. But I was raging. I thought, why am I so angry? Nothing's happened. There's nobody here. This was about 2 a.m. or something. There was nobody there. I thought, I'm raging, And it's just one of these kind of weird occurrences that happen, but we're not with Greyfriars. There's Earth Tree Healing. Welcome. Saying hello. Just one of these things that happen. Once you have a personal experience, you believe. Would you think I think that is very true.
I think so. And I do believe. I'm quite happy to say that I believe. I do also think, however, though, you do need to have a balanced view. So I think there are lots of things that can be explained with psychological processes, things going on in your environment that are not necessarily paranormal. But I certainly believe there are paranormal experiences that are genuine and they can't be explained perhaps by current scientific understanding as well.
Mm-hmm. No, I always say you need to be 80% believer, 20% skeptic. That's just my personal opinion. You need to have that. There's a lot of teams out there, there's no doubt, that they go into a graveyard, wherever it is, and as soon as they hear a noise, could be a bird farting, and that was a spirit. So, no, it wasn't. It was a pigeon farted, basically. Paranormal, and you've got to have that level where you say, right, I heard the noise. What could it be?
Absolutely.
And you go hunting for anything that could make that noise. If there's nothing there, then you just put it down as we can't explain it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you have to look at those rational explanations first, because often there is a rational explanation.
9 times out of 10, there is a normal explanation, but then you get that. So we've had quite a few of them. We've hunted for an explanation, and there's just no been one. It's like I say, I will come to comments, folks. I promise. Long time ago, this guy I used to know, we did an abandoned power station. We went to. We did it as a team a few times as well, but him and I went ourselves one day, and there's 3 floors to this place. We'd investigated it before, didn't get very much, some noises and footsteps and that. But we're standing at the front, we're on a live, and we could hear this sounding like a tapping sound.
Okay.
And it was like constant, and he was like, "What is that? What's that noise?" So I went for a wander to have a wee look, and it turned out at the back of the building there was like bits of metal, corrugated iron sitting, and it was drips of water.
Yeah.
That were hitting the corrugated iron, and it was just kind of echoing. Sounds daft, but it was kind of echoing, and this is what we could hear was the tapping.
Yeah.
This is it's drips of water in the back. It's hitting a bit of metal. That's debunked basically. But you get other folks say, "There's nobody here. We can hear tapping. That's a spirit."
Yeah.
No, it's no. Go and have a look. Go and have a look. I think we need to catch up on some comments, though. Sorry. It's crazy how common things with these happen around babies and kids. I saw orbs for the first 2 weeks on the baby monitor, and I thought it was faulty. Then when I went to pick her up and heard a shh.
How interesting.
I used to see an old man in my house as preschooler, wasn't scared, he seemed kind. But you get that, you get, you've been around them as well. I know we have, you know that there's somebody there watching you, or you can feel them right at your back, but you don't feel threatened by them.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, isn't it? It's how it makes you feel. I think you use your discernment just as you would with a person that you come into contact with in real life. Do they make you feel safe, or do they make you feel uncomfortable? And not everything's going to be bad or scary. So you have to trust your intuition as how does it feel? Am I okay in the presence of this? And I think if it feels all right, if you then get frightened, it's often then that your logical mind starts kicking in and starts to make you panic. But if you just go with that initial feeling, I think that tends to guide you in the correct direction.
Kate, that really freaked me out. There was nobody in the room. Then after that, nothing on the monitor or in the room, like a 2-week visitation. That reminds me of a funny story. I'll just quickly tell you. Years ago, with my first marriage, my wife had been out and I was watching the kids. You know, the kids were in their bed. We stayed in an upstairs and with the baby monitors on. And I could hear bathwater. I was sitting watching it. I could hear bathwater running.
Okay.
So I thought one of the kids was up. So I ran up the stairs and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Not a sound. Kids were sleeping. Back down the stairs and then I heard that again and I could hear splashing and kids laughing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was back up with this happened 3 or 4 times. There was nothing, the kids were sound. And it was a couple of days later, I was talking to a neighbour. I stayed about 2 doors away from me. And I says, what he had the other night? You know, I could hear kids splashing. He says, what time was that about? So I said, I don't know, about 8 o'clock. He says, I was bathing the kids. He says, your monitor has picked up my monitor.
Yeah.
And that was where the sound was coming through. Uh-huh. But I wasn't scared or anything. I was sitting there kind of, what the hell is that? You know. As when he says, I was bathing the veins in. So you've been listening to me bathing my veins, basically. Like, seriously, you know. But it just makes you wonder. I mean, some people might think that's paranormal, you know. And but it was just one of these weird things. Following my last question about imaginary friends, great answer. But so you think that individuals that say dementia or Alzheimer's can tune into that different frequency and see and hear individuals who have passed?
I think that's entirely possible because I think sometimes what's happening with those illnesses is perhaps sort of consciousness is changing, the level of consciousness within the body. And so perhaps we do open up and become more aware. And I know several of my grandparents and relatives have all had dementia and they've all seen different things around them. Now, sometimes that might be their mind, but other times I've sat and tuned in. I thought, actually, no, I can see what they can see. So one of the times was my nan. She was in hospital. She had dementia. And she pulled me close to her. And she's like, Debbie, I need to tell you something. And she spoke with such clarity. And she's like, your granddad's been to visit me. And he's told me it's time to go. And I've told him, no, I'm not going. And I can only tell you this because no one else will believe me. And what's interesting is I'd sensed him there as well. So I knew she was telling me the truth. Second time it happened. And she's like, this time he's brought other relatives with me. And I've told him he can bugger off. I'm not going. And she lived for another year or two. But I certainly feel that it made her more aware of different energies around her than perhaps she was previously. So I think, once again, I think it's entirely plausible.
Yeah, my husband from another life pursues me. He's not very nice and accuses me of murdering him and his son. Stay away from Eileen. She might look harmless, you know.
So if I was working with that, though, what I would look at is I would probably then regress you, Eileen, to find out what happened in that lifetime and why he's still attached and connected. And then I would probably also talk to his spirit to find out, well, why is he following you? Why is he not being very nice? And then we'd probably look at it from a soul level to find some sort of resolution. So, yeah, not a pleasant experience for you at all, though.
No pigeons. That's Laura. We did, this is going back a couple of years. Laura will probably correct me if I'm wrong. A couple of years we did Dundonald Castle. It's called not Dundonald Castle, Dunure Castle. And I can't really remember. I think it was all quiet. We were investigating, and the girl could hear these noises, and it turned out it was pigeons. You know? But it kind of put the bejeebies up them. You know?
Yeah.
Turned out it was pigeons. I'm assuming Kate's talked about the baby monitor story. Eileen saying you can't make spooky noises on a neighbour's Alexis just because you can. This is the days before Alexis was even a thing back then, Eileen. You know, I don't even think mobiles were a thing back then either. That's how long ago it was, though. But no, there is a common belief, and I do believe it, that, you know, when your time's approaching, that your relatives do come, whether it's to collect you or whether it's to comfort you. I mean, my dad, God rest him, we missed his passing, but in the last couple of days, he kept saying, you know, my mum's here. She's standing in the corner and stuff. And he kept talking about nuns
Okay.
He says the nuns are coming to get me. We were in the Catholics, you know. We said the nuns are coming to get me, but I'm not wanting to go. You know, they know I'm not wanting to go. It turned out, I didn't know at the time, but my stepmom, because my dad was terminal, the hospital says, you know, that's it, game over. So my stepmom had been looking at a hospice for him.
Okay.
And the hospice was run by nuns.
Oh, wow.
But sadly, you know, he didn't make it to that stage of the hospice. He passed before then. But he kept saying about the nuns.
Right, that's interesting.
About nuns, you're not even Catholic, Dad. You know, what are you gibbering about? You know. And then it was my stepmom that says to me later on, says, I'm looking and it's run by nuns. I thought, nah, it's weird. You know. I had a wee interest in the paranormal then, you know, but it wasn't as much as it is now. But it's just wee bits and pieces that they do come to collect you, they'll sit and they'll wait on you. And as you say, you know, she wasn't ready to go. And, you know, so bugger off, I'll let you know when I'm ready to go. Basically, you know, that's it. My dad dreams of nuclear family events before they happen. That's been really freaky. What about that dreams and then have deja vu kind of?
I think loads of people experience that. I think that's actually quite normal. I think a lot of these experiences are quite normal, but we don't talk about them with each other because either we're frightened or we think other people are going to think we're crazy or we rationalize them away. But I sort of think it maybe makes sense sort of from an evolutionary perspective because actually we want to survive. We want to be okay. And also we're all energy, aren't we? We're all made up of atoms and molecules that all vibrate and we've got to interact with each other. So it makes sense that all these experiences can potentially happen. So, and I just think when you look at the body, I know when I was studying anatomy and physiology, everything in the body has got a very, very specific purpose. And yet they tell us things like 99% of our DNA is junk DNA, or they don't really know what some of the parts of our mind do yet. If we know so little, well, is it really going to be junk DNA, or is it really going to be things that don't have a specific purpose, or is it we just don't understand them? So I think we've probably got lots of capabilities that we're not really aware of that would perhaps explain why we get some of this information.
That's you know, I've heard that as well, you know, and we only use half our brain or whatever it is, you know, a certain percentage of your brain throughout the life, and this other bit just says dormant. I think I might use about a quarter of my brain, I don't know. And the other side stays dormant, but I'll just start comment up for Eileen first. As we were saying recently, Scott, when passing is imminent, I think the subconscious assimilates memories and life goes through acceptance and releases to the spirit world. Now I'm going to show how thick I'll be. I'm not exactly sure what she means. Sorry, Eileen.
Okay, so I think I can maybe talk about that. So I had a really interesting experience a few years ago. So I had a very, very good friend, Karen, and she trained as a hypnotherapist at the same time as me. And I loved her to bits. She was great. We would speak most days. And sadly, she got terminal cancer. And towards the end, I started working with her in the hospice. And it's funny, she's been popping into me and some of her relatives over the last few days. So I think she's actually saying, make sure you mention me. But as I was working with her, I would go in every day and I was basically helping her to die peacefully. So to start with, doing energy healing, sometimes hypnosis work. And what we did to start with was we started collecting up all the positive memories and life experiences for her to take with her. We then worked together to release a lot of the fear. So as she then moved closer to passing, what then started to happen is relatives started to come in, people who had already passed, and I could sense them, she could sense them. Her husband, who hadn't been aware of those things, could even sense them. And then as it carried on progressing, what started to happen was she was in a lot of pain and she wanted to go. She was miserable, she was suffering. And one day she said to me, Debbie, is there any way you can tell my mind just to switch everything off? And I was like, I can't do that. But I said, we can work on freeing you from the pain. And she was in horrendous pain. So I took her into hypnosis. And I asked her mind to go through her body to start to release the pain. So it went down through her head, drained the pain away, went down through the chest. And then it got to the stomach area and she couldn't get rid of the pain. So I asked her what the blockage was. And all of a sudden, this voice came through her, which was an aspect of her mind. And it said, I know the physical body's dying, so it's not needed anymore. I know her soul or her higher self is okay, because that's going to wherever it needs to go next. But what about me? And I was like, well, who are you? And it said, I'm her mind. I'm her subconscious mind, that part that holds all the memories, all the experiences. And I was a little bit stumped. I didn't know what to say to her or to her mind. And I just said to her, look, I don't know for definite, but I would assume because you've been the one collecting these experiences, you or an aspect of you will go with the soul. So we actually asked her higher self to come through. And she spoke in this most prophetic voice and basically said, yes, Debbie's right. When you leave your body, I will bring with me all the memories, all the experiences that you've had on your journey. So you'll be fine and you'll be safe. So with that, at that point, all the fear was released and we could switch the pain off. So then for the last few days that she was here in her physical body, she wasn't in pain anymore and she could just sleep and rest. And that was such an honor to be part of that journey with her. And I still miss her every day, but she taught me so much about life and death. And fascinating.
I think, as Kate's saying, I think it's such an important job, Debbie, because every person needs someone like you before passing. How can I put this? I think that nowadays, you know what I mean, people talk, don't get me wrong, there's many, many people that fear death, you know, death, I don't know what's going to happen on the other side, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I think the kind of line, whatever you want to call it, that we do, it makes you more, it makes you accept death more. You know, you lose that kind of fear. Mm-hmm. Or you're still wondering what happens. You know, you're still thinking, right, I'm going somewhere, but I don't know where I'm going. You know, mm-hmm. I mean, my dad, when he was told, I was saying that's really validated my thoughts on the process of passing over. When my dad was told, you know, game over, I'll never forget, it was a Monday night, he was in the hospital, I went up to visit him, and I said, so what's happening, you know, because the doctors had operated on him that day and just basically stitched him up. He says, that's me, son, I'm buggered. Mm-hmm. He says, there's nothing, but he wasn't bothered. You know, he didn't say, oh, you know, I'm doomed and woe is me and everything. And mm-hmm. So I used to joke with him, you come back and haunt us and stuff. He says, no, he says, once you die, that's it. There's no heaven, he didn't believe in it.
Okay.
You know, it was just his, and he says, once your eyes are, shut your eyes and it's lights out, mm-hmm. Game over. And I says, no. And so I think it was about 3 weeks, roughly, between him being told, you know, time's up, to him actually passing. And mm-hmm. we used to, and some people criticised me for it, but it was just, I think it was where Glasgow we had deal with it. We used to joke about it.
Yeah.
You know, so because he used to, you know, I've told Sarah, Laura, he had an old Volvo car. My dad was a mechanic, he loved his cars, but he had this old Volvo. There was a square-shaped box thing, it was horrendous, you know, and he had a lock-up and what have you. And every time I got the host, was obviously, have you washed my motor? I said, mm-hmm. No. See, what's the point of washing it? You're never going to drive it again. You're gone, you're dead. And so it was stuff like that, you mm-hmm. know. And when you got to wash it, I said, I'm not washing your motor, I'm selling your motor. You know, and you'll be getting nothing because you're going in your box anyway. So it was all kind of just bantered, basically, back and forward. Mm-hmm. But I think it helped him because I think, you know, inside he was kind of, that's me done. Mm-hmm. But I think we're joking about it, you know, and it helped me deal with it, you know, because obviously you're sitting there and you know you're going to lose your dad at some point soon. And so we used to slag each other and I says, you're going to come back and haunt me, y'all, blah, 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 and all the rest of it, you know. But a very, very, just before I put these comments, so I don't know if you can explain this, Debbie, a very, very weird, my dad had 2 chihuahuas. Okay. Right? And people who watch the show know this story inside out. But one was a nice wee thing. The other one was a vicious little Do you know what I mean? They used to have to lock it in the kitchen every time you went in, because this thing just wanted to destroy you, basically. So the night my dad passed, late at night, and I'd been back up to the hospital, and then my stepmom and me went back to their house after we'd finished our bits and bobs at the hospital. And I sat in my dad's chair, and my stepmom went in to make a cup of coffee, and she left the kitchen door open.
Okay.
And I know my dad had just passed, but I clocked the kitchen door was open, and I thought that animal's going to come. And it was only about that size, you know, it was tiny. But you were scared of it, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought that's going to come belting out and attack me. But it came running out, and it jumped up my lap, and it curried in, cuddled into me. You know, and I was with that. It's never done that. Usually it wants to eat me, you know. And its attitude totally changed. And I've said to people, you know, I think that was my dad telling them, you know, right, I'm not there anymore, so you look after Scott. What do you think?
I think so. I think animals are amazing. I think they're so much more aware of these things than what we are as humans. I think they know. I think they know when their loved one is passing. I think they know when people need comfort. I mean, the amount of times I speak to people and say that they're going through a really tough time and their animal just knows that they need that affection or that they need space. So I think it makes perfect sense that that Chihuahua would know perhaps that you needed that comfort and it was there for that role. I mean, it's a soul. An animal's still got a soul. It's still got a consciousness. And I think if they're in our lives for a reason.
I mean, my stepmom, she came out the kitchen and she just sat there, she was going to drop the cups. She just stood there and just stared. He's never, ever done that to Ed. I said, I know. You know, because I was with my dad practically every day. And he's never, ever done that. That's so weird, you know. And I mean, but the wee bugger passed on eventually. You know? I don't think it's a fear of death, it's more a fear of the unknown.
I think that's really helped me with the work that I do, because I do a lot of transpersonal based work with my clients, and there seems to be a commonality. So when I take people through past life regression, what we do is we tend to go to a significant past life that's relevant for them, go to all the key moments in that life, get as much information as we can, but I will take the client through their death so they know how they die. But then what seems to happen is the same experience, regardless of what people's belief systems are, is that they either see a tunnel or a light comes for them. They go into that light and they feel a complete sense of peace, bliss, harmony. It's a really wonderful place. And at that point, they're in the spiritual realm. So they're either met by their loved ones or they're met by a guide that's an energetic being that comes to help them. And then within that plane, what we do is we do any healing work. So if there's been a traumatic death, we clear any of the trauma. If there's been any horrible instance in that life, we get rid of any of those negative stuck energies, so it's not impacting the person in this current life. But that is also very similar to people that have had near-death experiences where they've temporarily died or been close to death. They will often have those similar ways of perceiving it. So being out of their body, seeing a light, and also talking to a lot of the spirits that I talk to. It's the same process of guiding them from being stuck here to no longer being stuck to going where they need to go. So I think that's really reassuring, because there's all this different evidence, not only from what I experience with my clients, but there's lots of different case studies that have been recorded by loads and loads of different people about this. So there's that commonality. So I would say, for me, I feel that there is a knowing or a belief now, because it can only ever be a belief, that actually wherever I'm going, it's going to be okay. And I might take a little detour along the way, but I'm going to get there eventually. And it's just a really nice place to be. And it's almost like us in the spiritual realm or the energetic realm. That's reality. But it's like every so often we decide, you know what, we want to learn a lesson or we want to grow. So it's almost like if you had all the knowledge of the universe, you had every single book in the universe and you'd read them all, but you didn't understand how it felt. It's almost like if you then decided, you know what, I want to know what it feels like to love somebody. I want to know what it feels like to have loss or fear. So I'm going to come into earth like it's a little play almost, and I'm going to experience those experiences. and you come along with some of your other soul friends so that they can act it out with you. And then afterwards you get to go home. So although I don't like the idea of necessarily going through the process of dying, if it's a traumatic or painful death, the fear of death itself has actually gone because of these experiences. So I think even if you haven't experienced this yourself, if you read about what other people have experienced, it can help to get rid of that fear of the unknown.
I mean, let's face it, nobody wants to die, you know, physically, you know, but how you're going to go probably worries everybody, you know, is it going to be, I mean, you hear a lot of people say, I want to go to my sleep. It's probably the best way to go, you know. But either way, you're going, basically. But I mean, I always look at it. I was talking to somebody today as well. About, you know, I always think, and this is just my belief, I could be wrong, that our, you know, spirit-wise, our loved ones are always there. You know, they're always aware of what's happening with us. Because I've spoken to people who say, well, my dad's been dead for, I'm just using dad as an example. Dad's been dead 10, 15 years, he passed away. And I've never ever heard from him except for last week.
Okay.
And you think, well, my theory is that they're always around us, but they'll never interfere with our lives unless they feel that we're really in trouble. You know, it could be physically, it could be emotionally, whatever, unless they feel that they need to step in. It might sound stupid, but I've said to people in the past, you know, I think there's a time in everybody's life where they've had an issue, a problem, whether it be financial wise or something, you know, and there's no way that they can see out of this, whatever it is. And then at the last minute, you know, they may have a deadline for a payment or something like that, you know. But then at the last minute, something happens or they think of something and the problem's solved. Like, why did I not think of that last week? I could have did that. And I always think that's our loved ones, you know, stepping in at the last minute. So, right, he's in the crapper, so I'm going to give him a wee nudge or a wee helping hand. That's my way of thinking, that they're always here, you know, and they come in when they really need to give you that wee nudge, you know. Remember your Swiss bank account or something like that, you know. Take the money for that, you know. But I do believe that we can come and go as we please, you know, as you say, you come back to Earth if you want, have a look about, learn a couple of things, whatever, and then pop back. You know, we call it visitation, obviously, then pop back home again, you know, or wherever as we want to go. But I want to come back to that in a wee second. Eileen saying, my dad thought it was a load of old rubbish. Same as mine, Eileen, he thought it was a load of crap, basically. Bless him, until he made contact with me some years after he passed. That's exactly what happened with, you know, because my dad had passed at 95, and I think it was around about the year 2000. I went to a spiritualist church, so for 4 or 5 years. And then, you know, that's when this lady says, I've got your dad here, and she described him to, my dad was very, people always described him looking like Jack Nicholson, hairstyle and everything. And he was always immaculate. You know, there was never a hair out of place with my dad. And this lady described him doing to a T, every single part of him. And so it was like 4 or 5 years before he came sort of back to me, you know, if you want to call it that. My gran never believed. She thought it was her. That is, until after I passed, my cousin and Anne went to a spiritualist, and the first thing she said was, your mum says she was wrong, and does that mean anything?
It's amazing the amount of people I've spoken to that have had a non-believer that has then come through to them and said, the first thing they say is, actually, I was wrong, I made a mistake, I'm here. But I think maybe that needs to be acknowledged by those individuals, because how are you going to believe it if they say, oh, your dad's come in or your mum's come in and they want to give you all these messages? Well, if you just say that without saying, look, they got it wrong, they didn't believe, but now they do, you're probably more likely to dismiss the message. There
needs to be something, I think, no disrespect to these mediums, I don't know quite a few, and they're brilliant people, Barry John included. Yeah, that in case he watches, you know. I mean, anybody can say. I mean, my grandma came through as well, and she said to me, "You know, I've got this elder lady here, short, grey hair, sort of thing, and a grandmother." And I mean, she'd already told me about my daughter and an ex-girlfriend, but then she'd based my grandmother, and she said she's doing this. She was doing this. I was doing her way. She said she's doing this. She says you'll know her by this.
Yeah.
And my grandma, she was tiny. She was like 3'5", you know, and she wore one of the old-fashioned aprons that you get. I don't know if you still get them around her waist. And she had this on from morning to night. And because she was so thin, it used to wrap around her 2 times. And she was constantly tightening it, untying it, and tying it all day. And it used to drive me and my older brother absolutely nuts. You see, Gran, your apron's fine with your lead. No, it's too. And so when this woman says she's doing this at her waist, she says you'll know her by this. Well, it's little things like that. It can be. I mean, it might mean nothing to her, but it can be the smallest little message, personal thing. I think that's what my gran did.
Yeah.
No way could that woman have known that. No chance. You know, and so that I think you need to get. It's all right saying, you know, so your dad's here, etc. Great. But if you get that wee bit extra validation, that wee bit personal, no matter how small it is, message, then you know 100%. My dad used a pet name that we used for each other. Nobody else could possibly. It's just stuff like that, you know, a pet name sort of thing. And he told what flowers I'd taken on the previous day. You know. Kate's asking, so you're 100% convinced of the afterlife, Debbie?
I would say as close as I can be to 100%, then yes, I am. I think as well, because I've done lots of work on myself. So I'm a trainer, so I have lots of my students taking me into past life experiences. I obviously do a lot of exploring different energetic realms. And so I would say, yes, I do believe in an afterlife. And I find that really reassuring and comforting. So I'm not going to know for definite until I've left this body. But if that provides me with comfort and it helps me, then it's a good thing for me. So, yes, I would say I believe in the afterlife.
I believe in it as well. I think there's two different, you know, you've got, do you believe in the afterlife? I think a lot of people do believe, right, there's life after death. I think the biggest concern people have is what it's like. Basically, you know, and this is where I'm going to come back to what you were saying about people getting into the light and what have you. I mean, I believe after we pass, we've got free will, you know, we can go where we want, basically. Do you think, and I've spoken to other people about this, that there's a lot of souls that, you know, they pass over, but they don't go into the light because of maybe something they've done in the physical life and they're not sure what's on that other side?
Absolutely. And I speak with lots and lots of entities. I've had loads over the years that actually I've asked them, well, why didn't you go into the light when it came? And sometimes it's because they don't know they've died. Sometimes it's because they're staying around for a loved one. But quite often it is, I've done something that's not very nice, or I don't think I'm a good enough person. And what if I'm going to hell? I mean, that's a terrible thing for people to have to think. How awful for people to have to think they're going to somewhere horrible. Or it's a, what if I'm not good enough to go into the light? What if I'm rejected? What if nobody wants me? So we have to do a lot of work to remove that fear. And it's what I love about this work, because actually I always come from a place of compassion. And anytime any being goes into the light, there's always just love and support and understanding. And I think once you get rid of those sort of limiting beliefs that those spirits have held on to, they can actually go to a better place, and that's going to be good for everybody. But yeah, often I think it's those fear-based systems that keep them here.
They feel safe. I don't know what you want to call it, in limbo or whatever you want to call it, you know, between earth and heaven, whatever. They feel safe in that space, still here, because they don't know, you know, and then maybe some of the fear, well, if I go through there, can I come back again?
Absolutely.
You know, am I allowed to come back? Or, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, isn't it? The unknown is scary. People in day-to-day life get frightened of things they don't know. So why would it be any different sort of when you've left your body?
I mean, no disrespect to you, dude. We're not a very scientific team. I believe spirit is quite basic.
Yeah.
We are who we are, you know. I mean, people have asked me before, so how do you know you've got a spirit? How do you know you've got a soul? And I'll say to them, right, well, you look at the human body. The human body is basically meat and water, or, you know, heart, liver. They're all just bits of meat, basically. But what keeps that body going? What makes you be a happy person or an evil person? What makes you, when you're sleeping, what makes your body still breathe, still know to breathe? You know, it's a simple thing. And people say, oh, why? I never thought of that. I say, something keeps you going. You know, I says, it's like a car. You put petrol in a car. If you don't put petrol in a car, then the car doesn't go. I say, so something in you keeps your mind turning right. You know, the heart needs to keep beating. You know, you need to keep breathing. What is it that tells you the bits of meat, basically, to do that? Some people might think that sounds absurd, but that's just the way I think.
I think it makes sense. And I think if you think about even like the language we use, we talk about my body. So if we're talking about my body, we're talking about our body as being our possession. It's not us. It's something that we own or that we operate. So I see the body as a vehicle. So it's a vehicle that helps us to get around, to have experiences, to have interactions with other people in this 3D reality. But it's not us. And just in the same way as if we've got an old rubbish car that stops working, we don't just stay stuck in that car. We leave. We get a new one. So I think it's the same with us. Once this body's not working anymore, we leave.
And it's when I was first comment up first. I've been told of quite a few lies. One was a healing woman, another young girl that passed 1930, and another I passed while on a sea voice. We get in touch with Debbie then, Eileen, and have a wee
explore.
Have a wee chat, have a wee dig. Pardon the pun. You know. But no, it's going to sound, you know, morbid and what have you. I don't mean to, but you know, always when people pass, I went to see them in funeral homes, saw my dad in the hospital, what have you, after they passed. And just looking at the body, you know that person's not there anymore. You can just tell that's not my dad. He's elsewhere now. It's just, I don't know. I know there's people in life that have never experienced that. And I'm not saying go along and experience it, you know. I'm not saying go look at dead people, basically, but if you've had the chance to thingy that, then you know that person's not there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they're left. They could be standing right beside you, you know, or they could be away with their relatives, or you know, there's that many questions, Debbie, about what, you know, do we? I mean, we've all seen different movies, you know, where the person gets up with the body and they're standing at the hospital bed, or they're standing in the church at their funeral thinking, not very many people turned up to say goodbye to me. Basically, you know, or they're wandering about the streets and stuff like that, and there's all these spirits wandering about. Who's to say it's not like that, but...
Well, it could well be, couldn't it? And I think a lot of the time when we see things in movies and films, they are based on some sort of experience, whether it's something that we've witnessed or whether it's something that's put into our mind. Maybe it is our relatives sort of putting some of those suggestions in there, giving those little messages. I don't know. But I think far too many people have had these experiences or have had these same thoughts that we can't just discount them.
I absolutely, Scott, I upset family because I didn't feel the need to see Dad as he was away in another place. Exactly. I went up to the hospital to see my dad, and it was just, you know, the body lying there. I hate talking about that, but that's basically what it was, you know. And I knew myself. I went to see my grandma in the funeral home. You look and think, that's not my gran. My gran's away tying her apron somewhere else, you know. But as you say, Debbie, you know, you get these movies, and some of them are based, but there's too much evidence. I mean, you look at the paranormal field itself. I know you're a parapsychologist, so you take, and you're actually the first. I mean, we've done over 500 of these. I was thinking about this earlier on, and we've had, you know, teams on, historians, authors, actors, blah, blah, blah. You're the first kind of parapsychologist we've done.
That's good. I'm not sure I'd class myself as that just yet. I'm on the journey.
You're in that kind of field sort of thing.
Absolutely. I'm now studying for my PhD in parapsychology. So it's really exciting. It's exciting to see it from different angles and different perspectives, because I've always had the personal experiences and then the client experiences. It's now fascinating to look at it from an academic perspective and look at all the different viewpoints.
But I think you do. See, I'm not a scientific person. I never have been, because I don't understand. I'm going to be honest. I'm thick as mince, So all the scientific. I mean, we did a show. I don't know, ages ago, and I think it was Kate was asking about another dimension and top of another dimension, and I was lost, and I was hosting the show. And I was woof. That was right. That was gone. So I'm just kind of basic and simple.
Yeah.
But I know that parapsychology, I mean, from what I understand, are you with Dr. Cal Cooper with your studies, Debbie?
Yes, I am. He's one of my supervisors.
All right. I think I've heard of him, actually.
Yeah, very interesting. Sure. You should get him on.
I'm sure. I'm going to write that down. There we go. I'll underline that. Cheers for that, Kate. Thanks, Doc. What was I saying? You'll find out way sometimes. I don't know you coming back over very soon, but sometimes I'll start talking and I'll totally lose what I was talking about.
It happens to me a lot.
And what was I talking about? Half time is all that nonsense. I've dabbled in parapsychology, respect for the PhD. Cal is absolute. I'm going to give him a wee look up. But see, I'll lose what I was saying. So the parapsychology side there, you have to look at all different angles. I mean, there is, worldwide. That's what we were talking about, multi-strat. That's what it was. That Eileen was there as well. Thanks, Eileen, for that. That was totally lost with that, multi-strata existence. That was me. I was done. It was sausage supper time for me, basically. I keep forgetting what I was saying. I think there's far too much evidence these days. We were saying earlier on about a lot of similar people having similar experience. He's very handsome, Scott. Watch out. Never going to beat this Kate doll. No, you can't beat perfection. You know what I'm saying? People having similar experience. And it's the same investigation, there's far too much evidence and a lot of it is the same. You think how many teams there are worldwide or investigators, worldwide, and you read or watch their investigations and what they turn up and stuff like that. It's all very, very similar. So all these people can't be wrong. Don't get me wrong. There are some cabbages out there that just milk it for. I'm going to be honest. One day you'll learn with me. I'll be brutally honest with people. You get these cabbages out there that just milk it, and they're totally fake, and you can tell a mile off it's fake. No doubt you've encountered them as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you've just got to think what's the purpose or the agenda for people. So I think you always have to question the individuals as well, don't you? Like, what are they getting from it? Are they getting money? Are they getting fame and notoriety? Are they getting attention from it? There's going to be some sort of motivator there. And I think if you can start to work out with people what their motivators are for doing it, whether they're genuinely interested or passionate, or whether it's something else, that probably tells you whether you want to look at what they're doing or not.
I mean, I've been blocked for quite a few groups, because I commented on their videos. I get blocked last week, a week before, with a British team, shall we say. It used to be man and wife, but they split up. I'm not giving away, but they split up, and this guy's got a hold of another lady friend, basically. But they were doing videos. One video was, you see the ghost at the top of the stairs. There's that girl walking up the stairs, and there's nothing there. So I commented, yet again, nothing. Your videos have been called out more times than bingo numbers, you know, total fake, and they banned me from the group. You know, I had another guy who says I was talking for a minute, I was talking rubbish, and I says to him, well, you come on my show, and we'll have it out. And I threatened this civilised kind of way, and he just totally blocked me.
What a shame, because I think these discussions are really important, and it's okay to disagree with one another. It's okay to have different opinions and different belief systems. We need to be listening to those and talking so that we can all learn and grow.
And I totally agree. You need to, if everybody had the same train of thought, I no doubt you've heard this many, it'd be boring.
Really boring.
You know, I mean, we can have debates where we disagree with each other. It doesn't need to be, you know, shotguns and spears. You know, you can sit and say, well, I don't agree with what you say, but that's just my way of thinking. But there are people out there that take massive offence because you don't agree with them, or you don't see what they are telling you. That's, you know, ghost at the top of the stair. You know, candle moves to the left. The candle didn't budge. Oh no, it definitely moved. You can see it. I'm blocking you. Bang. And you know, they're away. Kate's asking, what's your PhD study?
So my PhD study is looking at the impact of therapeutic spirit release on non-clinical populations. So the spirit release therapy that I do, where basically we're interacting with the alleged spirit that's with the client. So compassionate exorcism, really, if you're going to describe it very simply, in a therapeutic context.
Right. I'll just you can tell I'll just nod the head. I think that sums up. Lost you for a minute. That's some folks just can't take credit because no, they can't. Eileen, they just. I mean, some of it's so just. Oh, I could go on all night about it. You know, it's my way or the highway. Exactly, and it's when no doubt you've encountered them, Debbie. They come out with all this absolute garbage, and the thing that gets me is some people actually believe it. You know, a very quick example is it's can I steal Debbie from my show? You're absolute fascinating. I don't know.
Yeah, contact me.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. We'll see with that, Kate. Some people. I mean, a quick example is we've got a castle. Well, it's not much a castle. It's a couple of walls left. It's Craigie Castle, it's called. But former friends of ours investigated it, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And now this is in the middle of nowhere, middle of the countryside, right? It's got very, very, very slight ties to William Wallace.
Okay.
Right, you know who William Wallace was?
Yeah. I've got a horrible history song in my head because my children used to watch horrible histories. I'm not going to sing that to you.
I loved it. Come on, I gave you Calcutta. I've not got them yet, Kate. I've not got them yet. I loved Horrible Histories.
Fantastic show. We used to have a CD in our car of about 31 different tracks from the Horrible Histories, and we just used to sing them as a family. It was great.
I used to watch them all the time. And same, have you watched Ghosts?
Oh, I love Ghosts. It's brilliant.
They're making a film.
Excellent. That'll be good.
I think saw on either Facebook or TikTok, one or two, but they're making a film yet.
Oh, no.
We only recently finished watching Ghosts. We started rewatching it again. I just think it's amazing. Really funny. You know, really the Majors is my favourite. Well, Mary was my favourite.
Uh-huh.
And I was kind of disappointed when she went to the light.
Me too, a little bit. But I like them all in their own way. And I think it's the interplay with each other, isn't it? But I was quite disappointed last Halloween. I suggested to my family, right, we're going to a Halloween party. Let's all dress up as characters from BBC Ghost. And no one would do it with me, which was most disappointing.
Oh, we would have been up for that. That's we I don't know how we I don't know if it was Sarah who thinking I can't remember how we got into it. But I like Horrible Histories. I was actually watching Henry VIII, the song yesterday.
Yeah.
I was actually watching that one on YouTube. But as I was saying, so these people, they went to Craigie Castle, middle of nowhere, middle of the night, middle of the countryside, farms nearby. Take that very important point. Yeah. And they were saying the necrophonia, I think they were using. but it says there's William Wallace there.
Mm-hmm.
And they could hear a horse, and it was William Wallace's horse. They're in the middle of the countryside. Also, they're going to hear maybe the odd moo and bat as well, but this, they'd see there's William Wallace and his horse. Just up the road. Literally 10 minutes for us. And people were commenting on this, thinking, saying, oh, wow, that's amazing. William Wallace, I've watched Braveheart. You think, what parts did you cabbages just crawl out of? You think, seriously, what planet mud are you on? And these people, the people that were doing it, they were actually convinced they had Wallace. Because that's the kind of thing Wallace would do. Oh, they're up at Craig, I'm going to jump up and say hello. I'm not doing anything for the next millennium anyway. I might as well jump up and say hello. And it's things like this that people actually get away with. Some folk are financially motivated, need all the cynical reactions and nonsense to boost like. A lot of people are obsessed with followers and likes and stuff. Don't get me wrong, we've done a few, you do shows and stuff and you maybe get X amount of views and you look at it, well, that's quite good. You give yourself a wee pat in the back and then you move on. That's it. You've done it. You've been there. But some people are right, subscribe to my channel, like me, follow me, blah, 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 and tell all your friends and everything. It's like, no, don't. We've never asked anybody to follow us or like us. Because we really believe if somebody wants to follow you, then they'll do it off their own back. Rather than being told. Because if somebody tells you, follow me, you feel kind of guilty if you don't. Yeah,
that's true, actually, yeah.
It's kind of like guilt tripping. Whereas I would rather people followed us or watched us because they want to.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose people need to be aware of you, don't they? They need to know that you are actually there and you exist. But then it needs to be their own free choice as to whether or not they actually want to tune in or follow what you're doing.
Exactly, though. Exactly. I'm quite conscious of the time. I said an hour 15 minutes. There's wee Eileen. She'd follow me anywhere. Cheers, Eileen. I'll talk to you very soon, doll. She's such a lovely wee lady. She has wee emphasising the wee. I'm only kidding. People fat shame me sometimes, because I'm a bit of a porker. But, Eileen, she's not. We hooked up with Eileen last year in Greyfriars in Edinburgh. And she's a Phantom Seekers Paranormal she runs. She's nuts, but in a nice way. Absolutely nuts. But that's what, people like, in the paranormal field that we're all nuts. We probably are.
Most people are in. We've all got our little quirks and eccentricities, haven't we? Especially when you get to know people.
Everybody's got their own wee weirdness. People probably think it's weird sitting in a graveyard at 2 or 3 in the morning. Listening for noises. But that's what it's all about. We do it because we love it, basically. Here's a question for you, Debbie. Just we're talking about fakes and stuff like that. Would you think spirit thinks of the fakes?
Are they bothered, do you think? I'm not sure. But maybe they've got better things to do. I don't really know. I suppose it depends on the individual spirit, just like the individual person. Some probably wouldn't care less. Some might be a bit irritated by it. I don't know, really. Never thought of that.
Sometimes I just get these random thoughts, and it could be the dumbest thing on the planet. I'll just pop it out.
I couldn't care less, to be honest. I'd be too busy doing my spirity things of either going to visit people or having some sort of wonderful adventure. But yeah, I suppose everybody's different.
Kate's purple burglar. I don't know if you've heard this or not, David. It's a common thing that, as the Scottish people can't say the 3 words. I can say ibuprofen. See, I can say ibuprofen. But purple burglar. For some reason, Scottish people, especially Glaswegians, find it very hard to say. I don't know why that is. it's just, I don't know, it's a thing, I suppose. But thanks for bringing that up, Kate. But I'm going to wind it up there because I've just noticed the time. I know you're a busy lady, but I'll hold on. You have to become off, so don't disappear.
Brilliant.
All right, Fleur. So where can people find you?
So people can find me. So my business is Tranquil Awakenings. So if you type that into an online search engine, you'll find me. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I've got some YouTube videos, or just type in Debbie Ison. You tend to find me all over the place, to be honest.
Glaswegians we are awesome. We are awesome. Well, sounds big you did, doesn't it? So give this lovely lady a look up. You will be seeing her again. Trust me, I'll make sure of it. So I'll hold on to you a couple of seconds. So a big thanks to Debbie for coming up. Thank guys, enjoyed the chat night. Don't let the bed bug bite. Try not to put clean bedding on the day, Eileen. So can you beat that first night in clean bedding? Do you know that? You look forward. Well, you kind of look forward to going to your bed, but you know you get clean bedding. You know, you think, oh, I can't wait to get to bed tonight. That cold feeling, it's like the cold side of the pillow. I love that. Fair answer. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Or a thank you, Debbie. No, a thank you, Scott. Just a thank you, Debbie. It's about one-sided.
Thank you for listening. It's been really nice to chat to you all.
I've really enjoyed it myself. Keep a hold of it. So that's us for tonight. So you'll be seeing this young lady again. Just before I go, I'm going to push Proud to be Paranormal by Barry Frankies. That's about his third year running. I'm the Scottish ambassador for it. Sounds posh. It's not really. That's Sarah. She's in the next room. She put fake tan on the night because we're Scottish, so we need to fake the tan. You know, we don't get a tan. Don't let you stand in there.
I don't get a tan either. I look like a ghost.
You do look quite white, actually. I'm not going to, I think I look browner than you do.
I think you do.
But I suppose she put her fake tan on and I put the clean bedding on, so I'll probably wake up in the morning and it'll be brown. Cheers, B. She's actually in the next room. Night Island, though. Proud to be Paranormal. This is his third year run. It's a fantastic event organised by the man himself, Barry Frankies, who we've got coming on middle of next month. And asked me to be the Scottish ambassador, which I'm very humbled and very proud to be. So I'm telling everybody we will be hammering it on the page. It's on the 26th of July. It'll be National T-shirt Day for Proud to be Paranormal. So if you've not looked into it, people, check it out or contact Barry Frankies himself. He'll be more than happy to fill you in all the details. Or contact me and I'll give you the ins and outs. But this is the third year run and we're hoping to make it bigger. There's loads of different people, wonderful people on board, and we're hoping to make it bigger this year than it has been the last 2 years, and it'll just keep growing and growing. And that's it. I plugged it. So Barry, if you're watching this, I'm doing my job, boss. I'm doing it. I'm on it. So we're going to say good night. We're back tomorrow night with Michelle Graham, who's an urban explorer for Glasgow. But you'll be seeing this, which is over there. This lovely lady again. So we'll say good night for just now, folks, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye. Bye.